that is Elliott. So Elliott lines up as the fullback, Pollard as the tailback.
Yo, what is going on, everybody? This is the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast. This is our host with the most time on his hands, Tom Stipple, FF, joined, of course, with my mate, Jakob Sanderson, FF_RTDB, who is telling me he can't hear. So we're going to cover for him for a minute while he figures this stuff out. I can hear him, but he can't hear me. We're going to figure that out, though. Look, it's been a good day. Lots of news for fantasy football. Lots of things happening. Players got signed. Players got hurt again. That's never a fun situation. But obviously, look, when Jakob gets back, we like to run through a little thing called Do We Care? So we're going to go through that. That's going to break down the news. We got to stop in from What's the Spread? We have a stop in from Billy, who's not here with me right now, not here with Jakob right now, but he is here, and we are going to get his picks. One of the things we like to do every week is we like to place our bets for the best plays between us every week, and we tally up each position. We take that, and at the end of the year, we tally who had the most right. Winner gets bragging rights all off season. We're ready to kick it off for week 1. So sit tight. We're going to bring Jakob back, and we're going to really kick this thing off properly this time. All right? All right, interesting and weird start, but here we are. We're back with my man. It's Jakob Sanderson, FF_RTDB. Look, unfortunately, for whatever technicality you had, you missed the banging ending to that intro. But on the outro, you're gonna see it anyway. Look, man, I was explaining to the people while you were away. Fun show today. I explained the competition. I explained what we're going to have hammering down. Now, if you notice, there's only 2, not 3 members of the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast. It's only 2. Billy is unable to make it. About once a month, every 5 weeks or so, Billy has to take a Friday off. But we're not changing our schedule. We're going to keep plowing through for the entire season. Jakob, as I was explaining to everybody, news went down today. More people went down. It's like a never-ending roller coaster of injuries, dices to people's DFS lineups, to their best ball drafts. This is so far a season racking up bodies at an alarming rate. So let's just run through it. Like I said, we do we give a shit? So we're going to run through Do We Give a Shit? Gallup, injured, 5 weeks. Traquan Smith gone on the IR.
Hey, 3 to 5. You don't have to be so pessimistic about it.
Hey, clickbait. All right, look, we got Murray signing in Baltimore to immediately become their RB1. What else do we say we got? We got oh gosh, I think that might be all the news. Oh, and Hines.
Curtis Samuel.
Curtis Samuel. Yeah, he's injured. Crowder's out this weekend, and Nyheim Hines getting paid some Tariq Cohen money. For some legit money. For the same, some legit money. For his pass catching role that he does very, very well. I want to start with Hines. Obviously, people give a shit about Jonathan Taylor potentially being quote unquote dusted. Obviously, if you think that way, you weren't in from the first place, as he put up a top 10 season, basically on the back half of the season alone already when Hines was healthy. Are you worried about this for Jonathan Taylor? I mean, you're the big Colts guy. You're our Colts insider here on the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast. What do you got?
Yeah, well, first off, just want to apologize to people. I had full sound when I logged in. I talked to Tom pre-show. It was good. The theme music went off. Everything was great. Halfway through the theme, it totally cut out. I couldn't hear anything. As soon as we went live, I couldn't hear anything, and so I had to come up with my phone. Honestly, it's the same thing that happened to me on the show on Wednesday night, and then it was good last night. I was potting with Mike Liu, so I don't know what's going on, but we'll figure it out. Anyway, Yeah, I put out a tweet actually just before I came on. I haven't been on Twitter all afternoon. I've been out there getting drunk and playing spike ball for law school orientation. But I took one break to make it fire off a tweet, and I said that I'll be releasing my last I know there was one game already, but preseason Dynasty ranks tomorrow. And for the first time since I've been releasing these officially, Jonathan Taylor will not be occupying the RB1 spot. And this contract is the reason why. I do think that this matters. Look, he's not dusted. Like, Jonathan Taylor is going to be totally fine. He's still an RB1. I think he's going to check in as my Dynasty RB3. However, it is a legitimate issue. Nyheim Hines is a really good football player. Like, really good football player. It was just another great Chris Ballard pick that he made, that he signed to a second contract because he's an awesome GM. Got on the 4th round. And has a really versatile role for this club, right? He essentially can play slot receiver. He can come in and play in packages with Jonathan Taylor. He's honestly he might be the best pass catcher on this team. Like, actually, he might be the best pass catcher on this team. He's almost certainly the best player in space. And he can go and play running back if Jonathan Taylor gets hurt. He can handle 8 to 10 carries a game along with Mac. And he's a really good punt returner, right? He has 2 career punt return touchdowns as well. So this is a guy who means a lot to the Colts. And maybe some of it doesn't show up necessarily in fantasy, and so people just see him as sort of a heel to Jonathan Taylor. But he's going to play because there are things that he does that are better than Jonathan Taylor. He's not a better player than Jonathan Taylor, but in certain packages and certain plays, that's the guy that you want on the field. And that's not something that, Christian McCaffrey is going to have to deal with. That's not something that Saquon Barkley is going to have to deal with if he's at full health. That's not something that even Dalvin Cook is going to have to deal with, or potentially not Alvin Kamara anymore. So I think that with Taylor, not a big change for this season. Hines is going to be there anyways. However, if you had hopes that he would eventually ascend to be a 60, 70 catch player, I think that you can safely put those hopes out of your mind, at least for a very long time. As long as Hines is healthy and wearing blue and white, he will be involved in this team.
Well, it's one of those things, like you said, he does it well. RB15 in PPR formats last season for Nyheim Hines. He had a very James White-esque season, right? He's my comp. I mean, this is the younger version, if you would. We don't know what Carson Wentz is going to do with him or how it's going to go, but look. Oh, we got Bob. Bob approves. That's what's up. Thanks, Bob. Much appreciated. Yeah. I like the upgrade on the look. Yeah, well, hey, just trying to apply some of those lessons that you be teaching there, boss man. You're appreciated. Look, Nyheim Hines, he's averaged 60 receptions a season since he's come into the league.
Yeah.
Right?
He's good, man.
63 in his rookie year. I believe it's 60, close to 64, and then 63 last season, the 4 touchdowns, but he's never had 90 carries in a season. So, look, he's definitely going to be a factor. He's definitely going to be there. You're going to be irritated, but don't panic on Jonathan Taylor, okay? Let's just chill. Latavius Murray is an interesting one that I want to get into a little bit. We both think that Latavius Murray is immediately the best running back on the Ravens roster. He can do all the things they need. He's not explosive per se, but he's fine and a good runner. I don't think they have a real explosive runner on their roster anymore. But remember, Lamar Jackson, when he came in his rookie year, he led that team, was a fantasy viable quarterback with Kenneth Dixon and Michael Crabtree as his offensive weapons. So, obviously, he's worth a waiver wire ad. Don't go crazy. I saw a lot of money spent on Lev Bell. It was depressing. It was hard to watch, to be honest. Other than that, I mean, the IR stints, hammies are going to go. They're going to come, and they're going to go in the season. I mean, Curtis Samuel, this is all just pluses for De'Ami Brown. I know there was a J.D. McKissick rile up today for his targets.
J.D. missed me with that shit.
Yeah, exactly. We're not buying it. I mean, other tan that, man,
it could happen. I just don't care. That's the thing. Like, it could totally happen. J.D. McKissick, like, I'm talking about this a lot in my next article. I've been really hung up on this on, like, every show I've gone into this week. But I've been talking about this idea of inferior goods and how that applies to economics, right? I've been talking about, or how it applies to fantasy. It's like the idea of, like, there are certain assets, like, steak or hotels or airlines that do best when the economy's thriving. There's other assets like ramen noodles or toilet paper or whatever, like that do best when the economy's in the tank. And that's J.D. McKissick to me. He's an inferior good player. He's a guy where he gets his, when the Washington football team is not optimized, right? So I don't really care about him because I want to be able to chase ceiling. I want to be chasing ceiling outcomes. And so, yeah, J.D. McKissic might catch a lot of balls. He's not going to get 109 targets. That's not happening because that was like an Alex Smith bizarro fever dream. He'll still be involved, but hopefully not.
Yeah, I didn't even know how many targets he had until people really started talking about it. And I went, "There's no fucking."
He had more than Mike Evans.
I know. Speaking of Mike Evans, hopefully you were paying attention to the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast show with the Podfather Matt Kelly, where we told you that Mike Evans was the biggest anomaly in fantasy football last season and wasn't really relatively close. He had a couple of.
Oh, you got to clip that. Put that out for the people this weekend.
Yeah, I'm going to. It's on my cue sheet for things to do. I'm trying to catch up this weekend. Look, that's do we give a shit? One thing we're not going to do this week for new listeners, we're not doing a Billy Snack Corner. We just figured Billy's not here. It's just the two of us. I'm not smart enough to beat Jacob's trivia 1v1, so we're gonna wait till next week to do the first in-season Billy Stat Corner. There's also
I have an impromptu. Jacob Stat Corner that's unofficial.
Okay, and not on record.
Not on record. Okay, so I'm looking for a name that this describes, and this is included within Do We Give a Shit? Okay. I'm looking for a name. Which player am I describing? Okay, I'm going to give clues. Tell me when you get it. All right. This player played 11 seasons for the New York Yankees. That's clue 1.
Okay.
You can guess at any time. All right. No guess yet?
No.
Fine, that's very vague. Okay. This player led the American League in home runs in back-to-back seasons.
Played 11 years with the Yankees. Okay, nothing yet.
Okay. He played first base for each of those 11 seasons.
Oh, is this Giambi?
It's not Giambi. The 2 seasons he led the American League in home runs were 1916 and 1917.
Oh my God, I don't know. DiMaggio?
Okay, here's the last clue. You're going to get it. This player is less famous for his 2 American League home run counts as he is for the 1 game that he missed and was forever replaced by another legendary New York Yankee.
Oh my God, dude! I was not ready for this. 1917, played 11 years. It's not Mantle, is it? There's no way.
No. This is the legend of Wally Pipp. Wally Pipp played 11 years for the New York Yankees. Was an all-star. Was a great player. But one day he got hurt, and when he got hurt, Lou Gehrig came in that day. He played first base, and he never missed another game. He played 2,310 consecutive games at first base, and Wally Pipp never played for the Yankees again. And you know who's the Wally Pipp of the Do We Give a Shit section? It's Curtis Samuel, because De'Ami Brown is going to come out there in week 1, and he's going to take his freaking job. And so God bless Curtis Samuel. But look, I have a TikTok coming out for Roto Underworld on the Roto Underworld FM TikTok where I declare Curtis Samuel is about to be Wally Pipped by De'Ami Brown's Lou Gehrig, because it's his. Once he seizes it, by injury, by happenstance, by whatever it is, he ain't giving it back.
You got me again. Your lead-ins are as what the kids say, poppin' or lit. Look,
pippin'.
That's how we open it here on the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast. We're going to take a second. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Thursday night showdown, which had to have been one of the best opening season games we've had in a while. It was a shootout. We had 108 passing attempts because running the ball is a myth. Establishing the run is a myth. It should stay a myth.
Very
And
unestablished.
let your ballers ball. So we're going to come back in just another minute. And when we do, we're going to talk Thursday night football implications, a few of the stats before we really motor on in. Let's go. Okay, so look, Thursday night football was big. We had the Dallas Cowboys, we had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was a DFS, dream matchup. It was everything it was supposed to be. It was high flying, lots of stakes. There were turnovers, a little bit of defense. Unfortunately, more players got hurt. Shout out to, I think it was Bunting, whose arm went the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So hopefully he gets
That's
better.
okay because you just put in the backup and he can still arm tackle Zeke's dusty ass.
Oh my God. So you know what? We're just gonna go right. Look, I understand that people, very kind and smart people, want to blame Jarwin for Zeke not scoring and saving fantasy lineups last night with his paltry 5.4 points in PPR that he had last night. But an athletic, good running back, which they have on their roster, named Tony Pollard, could have caught that pitch, put his foot in the ground, made a guy miss, and scored probably relatively easy. How do I know this? You might ask Tom. How do you know that? Because we fucking watched him do it earlier in that game or later in that game. Either way, he proved it. Pollard looked like the better running back in every aspect of playing football. The one run Zeke had was off the left side where it literally collapsed, and he kind of sort of very slowly gained enough.
And then he high stepped it too. He was so excited. He was like, "Man, I got a first down. I'm gonna put my." He did a little high step for no apparent reason. He's swagging.
He Seattle Seahawks Jerry Rice fucking leg stepped him because that's how old he looked. Oh my God, he looked bad. Speaking of looking bad, let's talk about our man, the $90 million man, Ezekiel Elliott. 11 carries for 33 poultry yards. 13 yards was his longest on the night, which is really saying something for how well he did.
That run had 0 yards after contact, of course.
Exactly. He had 2 catches for 6 yards. The one catch was actually nice. It was solid. It was high. He caught it, double tap. That was okay. But the one at the goal line, near the goal line, should have definitely been caught and turned upfield, but he can't turn upfield. So get used to seeing that this year. The one thing I want to talk about for sure with the Dallas offense that I noticed last night is they torch people between the 20s. They are, even into their own zone, they torch and they light it up. They threw the ball. It was efficient. They got studs. Gallup went down, but we can all enjoy 33 targets a week between Gallup and Lamb and Cooper for the next 5 weeks or so.
Oh my God.
It's going to be disgusting. God. But no, when you get inside the 10-yard line, you feed Zeke. He does this stupid fucking cereal bowl bullshit. They force him the ball 3 times, drive over. Inside the 20, they're moving the ball. They feed it to Ezekiel Elliott, and the drive is over. I can't wait for the stat to come out. I couldn't find it. I tried. I'm not like a big stat guy, but our stat guy had to work today, so we couldn't make it happen. I was trying to find how many carries Zeke got, like how many of his touches were inside the 20, and what those touches produced outside of what they were fucking doing. God, and it's going to happen all season. And I know Zeke is probably going to score like 10 touchdowns against dusty defenses, and people will sell you about it and be super happy and just root for him next season. But it's going to be gross.
And that's fine, but that's the problem with the whole thing. Yeah, he's going to have good games, right? So I think last night was a Rorschach test to a certain extent, right? Like if you weren't on Zeke and neither myself or Tom were on Zeke, then last night confirms all the priors you wanted to see. It's like, okay, Dallas is clearly a pass-first offense. They showed a willingness to get Pollard involved, especially in the passing game. He got twice as many targets as Zeke did. And Zeke looked slow as hell. Like he looked like a doo-doo. If he was running a 40-yard dash, he's probably running a 4.7. If you are a Zeke fan, if you were buying into Zeke, you can definitely look at it and say, okay, it was tough, like not even just a tough matchup, definitively the toughest run matchup in the NFL. Vita Vea is an absolute freaking animal. Devin White's an absolute stud. Like Tampa gets after you in the run. And so, okay, they decided to do a game plan around passing the ball because they weren't able to run it anyways. They were missing Zach Barton. All that's fair and fine. The problem is, if he was like a 4th-round pick, that's fine. If you drafted Chris Carson and you go, okay, this week playing Tampa, they're probably going to throw it a lot. He probably won't be very efficient. I'm just going to toss Chris Carson on the bench this week. He'll be back in there next week. That's totally fine. But you drafted him 5th or 6th or 7th overall, maybe even higher, That's where Zeke is going. If you're drafting your running back in the first round, you do not get to hide behind the matchup. If you're paying your running back $90 million, you don't get to blame your backup tight end for missing a block. Like, you don't. The whole point of paying a $90 million back is that the rest of your team isn't perfect because you're spending $90 million on a fucking running back. So the rest of your team won't be perfect. So he has to elevate the rest of the team. If he ends up one-on-one with a backup safety, he needs to either beat him to the edge, plant and cut inside and get around him, or run him the hell over. He did none of those things. He tried to do a little spin move, got caught with his feet in the air, and got arm tackle ragdolled to the ground because he's dust. So, yeah, he's going to have good weeks. He's going to have weeks against worse run defenses with Dallas wins by 2 touchdowns because they're a good team. And he'll have 20 carries for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. It'll be fine. But if you want a guy who you can get 80 yards and 2 touchdowns for in good matchups and have to sit in bad matchups, you could have just drafted like Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, here's my question for you, though, when it comes to he's going to have good games, is when. So they have the Chargers. Decent enough defense.
Tough.
He might have a mediocre game.
The 2 after that, the Eagles and the Panthers. That's where we're going to see it.
Philly, good run defense. Their
Yeah,
front
but they're going to
seven
win that
healthy,
game by like 2
has been
touchdowns,
good.
though.
Sure, but it's not going to be easy for him. He's going to need that 20, 25 touches, right?
So and he'll get it. They'll be feeding him.
Carolina's a better defense than we want to give him credit for, but they're still not an elite defense. They're probably going to win that game.
They should
New York
improve
Giants.
this year. They were dreadful against the run last year. Probably better this year, Carolina.
But they do force a lot of turnovers. So the Giants, stout run defense last season towards the back end. So we'll see. That could be good. New England, they've been bad against the run.
Really good defense this year, I think.
Yeah. Minnesota, healthy defense, could be tough. Yeah. Denver, healthy defense. They're probably going to win that game by a lot. But it's going to be, maybe not by a lot, but they're probably going to win that game. But Denver's going to be tough. Kansas City maybe has a decent running game.
You can run on them if you can keep up with them.
Right.
Yeah.
Vegas, probably a cakewalk.
Yeah, okay. There's the smash case.
New Orleans.
You don't run on New Orleans, man. You do not run on New Orleans.
Now, here comes his week 13 through 17. Okay, now if you make it to the championships with Zeke, you might have a good game here. But New Orleans, Washington, Giants, Washington, Arizona, and if you play week 18, Philly. That is one of the most horrendous playoff schedules you can ask for.
Double Washington
championship game, and the Giants. Are still good. Like,
you know what feed Zeke means? In the football playoffs, they're going to feed him directly to Jonathan Allen, and Jonathan Allen's going to eat him alive.
Defense. Now, that's presuming everything, obviously predicting defenses and stuff like that is tough. But you're talking 2 matchups with Washington, a matchup with Philly, and a matchup with the Giants, who are presumed to be a good defense again this year. I don't know. That's a brutal schedule for Zeke. Now, I don't want to just sit here and talk about Ezekiel Elliott for 10 minutes because, we can shit on him literally all day. Tony Pollard's better. Let's free him. Look, there are a couple of things that I want to mention. Amari Cooper is fantastic, and if he stays healthy, oh my gosh, he's easy to lock into top 10 for you, healthy?
Yeah, I think we're finally going to get it. We're finally going to get the Amari Cooper season. I tweeted this yesterday. I mean, like the OGs, like you and Austin and Lindsay, and everybody's been with me since day one of fantasy. Y'all know how much I love Amari Cooper. Like, y'all know since I started ever playing redraft leagues. This guy came into the league year 1. I've had Amari Cooper on at least one of my rosters every year since his rookie year. I love this dude, and it's been an up and down ride. He's teased me, and then he's usually disappointed. I thought last year was finally the year, and then Dak got hurt, and Cooper was still pretty solid, but his ceiling really got robbed from him. I think this is the year, man. I mean, especially with Gallup out 3 to 5 weeks, which sucks because I love Gallup too. I have a lot of Gallup. But for as long as he's out, man, I mean, oh my gosh. Cooper and Lamb could be getting 25% of like 50 Dak throws a game. I mean, they could each be getting 10 to 12 targets every game. They're both studs. Dak's a stud. Like, I mean, it's not inconceivable that Cooper could be like a top 5 wide receiver. And I'm not even sure if he'll be the top scoring Dallas wide receiver. Like, both of these guys, I think, are going to be top 10 wide receivers at least until Gallup comes back. And I think they could both be top 10 receivers overall. We've seen teammates both be top 10 before. And this team is going to throw the ball, I think, a lot. I mean, Yes, it was Tampa. And yes, that's what the match dictated. But I mean, they were throwing the ball
How
at
many
will
neutral?
against a
How many
really,
neutral
really,
and
really
positive?
good pass
Right.
defense. Yeah.
And how many neutral and positive game scripts do you think Dallas is going to be in this year to give the rock 25 times to the running backs on the ground without it just being stubborn? I don't see it happening. I see them throwing the ball constantly. And obviously it's week 1. We're not going to overreact to these things. But this is supposed to be a tough matchup for Dak Prescott. I saw it all over the Twitterverse. I popped into a couple shows.
Tampa's got a great defense.
Very smart guy, Tyler Carp, DLF. I asked him, Hurts or Dak, and he went Hurts, right? Because people were kind of scared off of this matchup, and for a good reason. But he came out, and it did look a couple throws of those were iffy. The one pick was definitely CeeDee's fault as he tried to gator
some
on
iffy
that
throws,
ball,
but he had 58 of them.
Weird.
You're gonna have some iffy ones.
Exactly. But I mean, overall, the Dallas offense looks like it's going to be a fucking juggernaut, and I'm here for it. I'm gonna be rooting for him all year. I want to talk about Tampa Bay a little bit because this is one that had something, and this was a team that you're going to want to look at in DFS, right? Because I think Mike Evans is going to be a trap all season. I played him this week. I kind of wish I didn't. He had a good, he was 6,500 on DK, and that was rough when you got down to it, right?
It's a tough scene.
Yeah. Okay. What's Troy over here with the Zeke?
Troy loves Zeke.
We know. We talked about it. Look, I think he's going to be a trap this year. Obviously, the story, and in my opinion, this whole team, Godwin had 2 mistakes, right? And you hate to see it. He had the drop, right? It was very much catchable.
Could have had
it was
such a huge game if he caught that and then he scored the other touchdown.
And then the fumble, right, on the goal line, just trying a little bit too hard. He's amped up, didn't go down, wanted to put it in, which really sucks because I had him on the over at 1.5 touchdowns. I had him at the over. He could have had it, right? I would have parlayed that into some meal ticket money, but nonetheless, he fumbled. I want to talk about, and I know it's everywhere. It's Friday. You've heard all this already, but I want to talk about Antonio Brown, right? Antonio Brown came out and did exactly what we thought he was going to do. We know Tom Brady loves him, and I am so concerned for Mike Evans because of Antonio Brown. We obviously, again, mentioned it with the Podfather himself, where we talked about Mike Evans being outside of the top 50 in air yards, top 50 in targets, target share, all that kind of stuff, and it weighed its ugly head again. He's going to be touchdown or bust. He's going to be the Zeke Elliott of wide receivers, and that's Mike Evans. So Antonio Brown, he got 1 carry. That was for 6 yards. He ended up with 7 targets. He caught 5 of them, 121. Some of them were D. One was 47 yards. And obviously that was the big touchdown for Antonio Brown for you. I know we had talked before that he was the best value in the Tampa Bay receiver room. Are you leaning that this is somewhat able to be consistent? Are you worried that it's a flash in the pan? How is it for you before we move on to the matchups?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this team is going to be tough because there's so many weapons, right? So they're going to throw the ball to Fournette, they're going to throw the ball to Gio, they're going to throw the ball to Gronk, and then you got those 3 wide receivers, all of whom are really, really good, right? Like when we're bashing on Mike Evans, someone's saying like Mike Evans isn't good at football. Mike Evans has been a phenomenal wide receiver in the NFL for a number of years. He still is a phenomenal wide receiver. The issue is just there is so much competition for targets. And if you think about what Brady wants to do, he wants to get rid of the ball quick. Like that is his preference. He's not the guy who's going to sit back in the pocket and take these deep shots over and over again. And my concern with Evans is that he just has less outs to success each given week than the others do. You watch how they're running their offense, right? Like Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown are pretty much guaranteed 2 to 3 of those little hitch passes every single week, especially Godwin. And it makes sense because that's one of Godwin's best attributes is his ability after the catch. So if you're going to call that little tunnel screen that they love to do in Tampa, you're going to dial up number 14. You're going to get it in his hands. I mean, we saw it on the final drive, right? Chris Godwin caught that tunnel screen ball, and I think he took it for 15, 20 yards. And then, of course, he had the big catch that may or may not have been offensive pass interference. The issue is Mike Evans, he's not getting those. That's not his game. So he's going to have to earn his targets within the offense. He's going to have to get a lot of his work deeper down the field. And when that hits, it's going to hit great. Like there will be a game where Mike Evans has 7 catches for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's going to happen. And that's probably when you should be selling Mike Evans because everyone else just has an easier path. You watch Gronkowski. He has those little check, release. Brady tosses it to him and he runs for 10 yards. Easy completions, right? Chris Godwin, easy completions. AB, Brady's looking for him. When AB is out there, he has the highest targets per route rate of any of these 3 wide receivers, the games that they've played together. He's only playing 60, 70% of the snaps in the slot, but when he's out there, that's the first read for Tom Brady. Mike Evans is not.
Brady
and so,
loves
yes,
that.
Mike Evans will have his games for sure, and he's still a good player. He might even still lead this team in touchdowns, but yeah, he was my second priority for sure behind Godwin, and my third priority at cost between these 3. With Antonio Brown, I think he's an every week starter. He's not gonna make you happy every week that you started him, right? Like because he's not playing all the snaps, right? Like if you look at the routes, Godwin and Evans are the only 2 guys that are playing in the 2 wide receiver sets. They only work in Brown when they go to 3 wide receiver sets. And so that limits your floor a little bit because in certain games, if the game plan dictates more 2 tight end looks, if they get way ahead early, he might not be, a guy who's going to have really a lot of consistent play week to week, but he's going to have more games like this for sure. And if they're in matchups like they were this week where you think there's going to be a shootout, you're going to want AB in your lineups because he can get you 20, 30 points any given week. All of these guys can.
Another thing for Evans is Gronk. Did you expect 8 for 8, 90 yards?
Oh, man.
He was the clutch look. They designed the second touchdown on the
Brady
late release
loves
for
throwing
him.
tutties to Gronk. He loves it.
I think it's gonna be rough for Mike Evans this year. If I were to call my shot, he's the most likely stud to fall to the wide receiver 3 range this season. I think he's the most at risk for the most catastrophic fall in fantasy football this year. He's a likely candidate to be Juju this year, right? Where Juju was that prime candidate the year before AB left, and then he's just dusted. I think we're at that point. Okay. Oh,
I think Evans is? Evans to me is it's like Gallup last year for the Cowboys or like Brandon Cooks 2 years ago for the Rams, where he's still a really good player, but he's just has the least fantasy-friendly role in the offense, and he's not able to get those targets consistently. So I look at Cooks his last year in LA. I look at Gallup last year. I look at Evans this year as a guy where I don't think anyone's questioning his talent, but he's going to have games, but it's just going to be really volatile in my opinion. I don't think he's a guy you start this year and feel really confident about it every week at all.
No, 100%. But again, tight ends, all they need is the tutties. So he's likely, the way it looks, he's likely going to get 8 for sure. I think 8 would actually be underselling. Look, every week I like to call upon, we all like to call upon a group of very smart guys in the college football world. What's the Spread? Andy and Danny Starr. You can find them over there on Twitter. I'll pop up all the information for them. They like to pop in and give us their 2-minute drill for their top picks, their lead pipe locks in the Big Ten. So we're going to let them come do their thing. And when we come back, Jacob and I are going to talk pinpointing matchups, and we're going to go through all of our picks, and we're going to wrap it up and get out of here and, really set up for Jacob's DFS show tomorrow. So sit tight. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit of matchups. We're going to make a few picks, and we're going to call it a week 1.
This is What's the Spread? This is the 2-minute drill powered by Full Tilt Dynasty. I'm Dan Starr. We got Andy Starr here. Last week, we gave you some bonus picks. This week, we're looking at those Big Ten matchups. We're giving you our lead pipe locks of the week. Andy, give us yours first. Who do you got?
So, I'm looking at Buffalo at Nebraska. Buffalo coming in as 13.5-point underdogs. Nebraska, both of these teams actually took care of business against FCS opponents last week. Not a lot to take from those games. What I do look at is Nebraska losing to that hobbled Illinois team in week 0, who then went on to lose to Texas San Antonio at home. Buffalo doesn't have a bad rush D, finished 56th in 2020. And then Buffalo has that spectacular run game led by Kevin Marks and Ron Cook Jr., who had big weeks last week. I think this Buffalo rush defense can keep Adrian Martinez in check, and Marquise Stepp and Gabe Ervin. And if they jump out to an early lead, they have the ability to take the air out of the ball and rush for over 200 yards in this game. I think they keep it close, maybe even steal a win. So my lead pipe lock, Buffalo plus 13.5.
I love it. Little Maction. So I'm looking at the Maryland Terrapins. They're playing FCS Howard. Howard coming off a disappointing loss to Richmond, the Spiders, last week. They lost 38-14. They gave up 530 total yards of offense, 304 yards passing, 226 on the ground, and they didn't get any turnovers. They also played this game back in 2019. Howard lost 79-0 to the Terrapins. Look for another absolute blowout, a mollywhopping. It is going to be ugly. It's going to get ugly earlier. Talia Tagovailoa is going to have a monster game through the air. He's probably going to have a monster game on the ground. Look for Taysom Fleet Davis to also tear it up. This is going to be a blowout. Give me the Terrapins, -45, covering the huge spread. And remember, folks, this is it. This is what's the spread. Let's go.
Those are huge numbers. Some of those 45 points, and they're going to cover the spread. And that's a lead pipe lock by Dan Starr. Look, he's nothing short of confident, right? That is a huge number. If you want to hear the rest of the breakdown of the Big Ten action coming to you this weekend, you can go to What's the Spread, the podcast. Go and give them a listen. The information is top tier. I'm going to be placing some bets on the Terps this week for sure, because if he's that confident, I got to run with it.
You got it,
man. That defense they're playing sounds like they're absolutely abysmal. Just absolutely terrible. Back at it here. Look, this is a juicy fantasy football week for matchups. I just want to talk about a couple of the key ones before we make our picks and bring our videos of Billy in to help us get because obviously it's a competition. We're doing it big the week. We're gonna get all three of us. Doesn't matter. He's speaking for himself, so we can trash him next week. Because let me tell you, one of those picks, you're gonna roll your eyes. Believe you me, we love you, Billy. I want to talk about Philly and Atlanta. This is a fantasy football goldmine for statistics.
Oh
the
man,
Philadelphia defense is not the secondary is not projected to be very good. They haven't been for a while, and obviously Atlanta has problems on defense all frickin' over the place. So, one place that Philly is susceptible, over the middle. To what position? The tight end. And Atlanta's kind of got a good one. So, we're going to find a way to talk about him because we have to. It's Kyle
Hayden Hurst.
Yeah.
No,
it's not first round pick of the Baltimore Ravens, Hayden Hurst. Picked before Lamar Jackson. Fucking gross. What an awful time that was for me as a fan as they traded back twice. Just horrific. Look, this is a big matchup. There are some key starts here and a couple of players that have some question marks. So I want to start off with Miles Sanders, right? And the matchup between Miles Sanders and Mike Davis. Now, we are anti-Mike Davis believers. But there are people out there that he is locked for 5 receptions and 12 carries.
Possible
is what I have seen. With that, where are you with Mike Davis this week for people listening? How are you playing Miles Sanders? Is it confidently? Is it rough? What is your take here?
Yeah, I mean, these are two running backs I don't have a whole lot of confidence in season long, but smoke them if you got them, baby. I mean, like if you took Mike Davis and you're not going to start him in week 1 against the Philadelphia Eagles, you probably shouldn't have taken Mike Davis, which, to be fair, you probably shouldn't have taken Mike Davis. But, I mean, Wayne Gallman just got there, right? So if he's going to start taking carries from Mike Davis, it's probably not going to be in week 1 unless Davis pulls a Rojo and fumbles and gets his coach to hate him forever, even though when Fournette makes mistakes, Arians doesn't care. Thanks, Chase. Yeah, I think with Davis, I mean, I think it's pretty clear he's going to be the lead back in week 1. They brought him in, and Gallman, like I said, got there late. Cordero Patterson, he's going to play his own little Cordero Patterson role. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if Davis got 12 carries, 5 targets. Will he be efficient on those? Probably not. Why won't he be efficient on those? Because he's Mike Davis. Miles Sanders, it's just he's one of the guys I'm most interested to see. I'm very fortunate in our little Liga record with me and you and Billy all in there that my team is so good that I actually I get to leave Miles Sanders on the bench. So I get to wait and see. I get to root for Miles Sanders, but I get to root for him while he doesn't have to actually count for me. And that's where I prefer Miles Sanders is on the bench. But all that being said, Atlanta's defense historically has been an absolute gold mine for pass-catching running backs. The question, is Miles Sanders still a pass-catching running back? We don't know. That's the biggest thing that we need to see because we know he's going to be their lead rusher, right? They're not going to jam. They're not going to jam Kenny Gainwell or Boston Scott up the middle. So I think we can lock in Sanders for a solid 70% at least of the running back carries. What it all comes down to is he going to get third down work? Is he going to get pass work? Or is he just going to be like a Darrell Henderson type where he's going to get 12, 13 carries, not going to get the pass work, just going to be that slasher, like a Raheem Mostert where you're just relying on the big play? Because I think that's the concern with Sanders. It's all about does he get the pass work? And that's one of like the 5 things that I'm most interested to find out this week.
And Philly's just going to be annoying and play Boston Scott like inside the 5 a couple of times this year. Like they're going to be annoying. And
they don't have Corey Clement anymore, at least.
True. I just know
they love to toss Corey Clement in at the goal line.
We love to shit on Gainwell because he was taken after a kicker. Like that's like the running joke with Kenny with that Kenny G, little Kenny G. And but the fact of the matter is the guy played well in the preseason. He showed that he can ball. That whole backfield's going to be weird. I'm avoiding it. Real quick before we move on to the next matchup, I want to talk about pass catchers. Again, I want to talk about Kyle Pitts. I don't care about the Philadelphia tight ends. You can play them if you want to. I avoided them the whole time. I know Goddard is
I'll be talking about the Philadelphia tight end.
Yeah, I know Goddard is anointed as like the god at tight end, but I don't care about either of them. They're just not the plays that I want. Goddard will get red zone looks. I mean, that's for sure. Presumed to. Anyway, I do want to talk about Devante Smith. I want to talk about Kyle Pitts. I want to talk about Jalen Reagor, actually. And I also want to talk about Russell Gage. These 4 guys are 4 players that people are going to be playing this week. Russell Gage is going to get played in the flex spot this week. Not by us.
By people that suck.
So that's where I want to start with. Is Russell Gage doomed to trap people into fantasy production this year as a wide receiver 3? Or do you think that there's a possibility that he actually takes over that second tier role? Or are you fully committed that Kyle Pitts is actually their wide receiver 2, as Travis Kelce is in Kansas City, which is why there's never a wide receiver 2 that's valuable in Kansas City?
Yeah, I mean, like Kyle Pitts is their wide receiver 2. He's extremely good. Like I've always said, I've been saying this since day one. Kyle Pitts is a wide receiver that you can play at tight end. I think their base formation is going to be 12 personnel. They're going to play Pitts, Hurst. They're going to play, of course, Ridley at X wide receiver. And frankly, I'm not even sure they're going to play at Z wide receiver. Russell Gage is ass on the outside. I wouldn't be remotely surprised if they play the Greek god of vacated targets, as you refer to him, Olamide Zaccheaus at Z wide receiver. Or maybe they'll play Gage. I don't know. Maybe they'll even play 11 personnel. I do know this. Russell Gage is just not very good. He doesn't create anything for himself. He doesn't earn targets. He doesn't create yards after the catch. He's going to run some routes, and if he's out there all the time in 12 personnel and 11 personnel, I'm sure he'll probably get his 6 or 7 targets, and he'll get his 5 catches, 40 yards. But just do more with your life. Russell Gage is the fucking cubicle of wide receivers. Strive for more, right? Look at Tom Tipple. Look at Tom Tipple, right? Tom's a guy who is, been through a fucking ton in his life. One of the best guys that I know has had an absolute journey in his life. But he decided, you know what? I'm gonna start up a fantasy company. I'm gonna start up a fantasy podcast because I want to enjoy my life. I want to make my life mine. I want to take ownership over my life. If you want to take ownership over your life, start someone fun. Don't start Russell freaking Gage. How depressed do you have to be to just be like, oh man, I really want those 11 PPR points in my flex spot? Like, get a life and get over it with Russell Gage. If you have him, drop him. Like, just do better. I quote
If
Ben
you
Gretsch
have
all the
him,
time.
trade him.
Okay, for what? I
Somebody
I
will
always
take him, I'm
quote
telling you.
Ben Gretsch is like the best fantasy analyst in the world. I quote him all the time, usually with very smart quotes on different shows. But he was on a ship tracing draft, and I'm pretty sure he's a few beers in, and so am I. I've been drinking these Arizona hard iced teas. You can crush one in
That's
about
what's
30
up!
seconds, by the way. And someone took Russell Gage as wide receiver 3, and Ben's exact quote on that stream was, "I just feel so bad for that human being. Why don't you enjoy your life? Why are you taking Russell Gage?" That's all I have to say about it.
Look, I know it's just targets. There's targets. There's vacated targets. There are so many vacated targets. It is sad. He's not a player that I want on my rosters, but again, do want to talk about him because there are people out there that's playing. But look, find a better option. There's got to be a better option on your team. Avoid Russell Gage. He's going to be a trap. Now I want to talk about Kyle Pitts here. Because look, he had the one catch in the preseason. They kept him hidden. He wasn't ready, right? But you see the training camp
That was
videos.
such a good catch.
They're practicing guys hanging off of him where he can catch the ball and separate. They're deliberately doing holding drills, which is what that was, to practice focus, concentration, and catching in traffic. He's an absolute fucking animal. And he made a play out of nothing, and you can talk shit about it if you want to, but his one catch went for what, 28 yards, where, you know, lesser human beings on and off the field like Tyler Higbee would have maybe been lucky
or
to
Zeke,
get 8
for
to
instance.
9. Or Zeke, right, that would have probably netted 4 because he can't turn up field anymore. But Kyle Pitts turned a play that was specifically designed for him to open the game, do exactly what it was supposed to, and he would have netted you a ton of fantasy points on that play. Are you expecting a 8 to 10 point floor for Kyle Pitts every week at tight end and a 25 point ceiling for him every couple of weeks? Is this your expectations? Should people temper it? How should they be looking? I know, and try to be objective, right? You started the paragon of objectivity situation here on the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast. So I need you to put on your paragon of objectivity hat and talk Kyle Pitts. What should be the expectations? I have him scoring 13 fantasy points this week. That's what I have him projected for. What are you looking at for Kyle Pitts this week? And I'll take you seriously if you don't say 35.
Okay, well, I won't say 35, but I will say this. I'm playing 7 lineups on Draftkings this week in tournaments, and my top lineup is a $50 single entry in the red zone. Don't scoop me, by the way. And
don't play this lineup.
I'll tell you what, my tight end in that lineup is one Kyle Pitts because I do enjoy my life. Look, he's actually cheap. He's like 4,400 on DraftKings this week. Yep. My comp for Kyle Pitts, since way back to our draft shows, it's not been a tight end. It's been Mike Evans, who we just talked about. I know that we just shat all over Mike Evans, but like we said, he is still an extremely good football player. And he was an extremely good football player as a rookie. He had over 70 catches. He had 1,000 yards. I can't remember how many touchdowns he had, but he's Mike Evans, so probably at least like 8 because that's what he does. He scores touchdowns. I think that is totally reasonable for Kyle Pitts. This Atlanta team is going to throw the ball a lot. I think that they're looking at like 600 pass attempts as an absolute floor in the 17-game season. Would anybody really be shocked if they hit over 650, even 700? No. Like they're not going to be able to run the ball effectively, I don't think, with Mike Davis and Wayne Gallman and Cordero Patterson. Their defense might be a little better, but I'm not sure.
Patterson might be their best RB. I don't know.
Like Keanu Neal and Deion Jones are good players, but it's just a matter of time until they have a season-ending injury again. It seems like it's what they usually do. And so I really do think they're going to pass the ball a lot. And Calvin Lee can't catch every ball. He's going to catch a lot of them. But some of the ones that he doesn't catch, I think, are going to go to Kyle Pitts because he's extremely good. He's extremely athletic. He creates for himself. I think they're going to get him scheme touches. He's going to be their number one guy in the red zone. I do think he's going to play a pretty full complement of snaps because I think they're either going to run 11 personnel with Pitts or they're going to run 12 personnel with him and Hurst. But there is no collection of pass catchers they put out there, in which Kyle Pitts isn't one of the best ones that they have right out of the gate. So to me, if you're looking forward to a big rookie season out of Jamar Chase, if he can tell a striped football from an unstriped football, of course. If you're looking for a big season out of Devante Smith, Waddle, whoever, you should also be looking for a big season out of Kyle Pitts because he's an absolute freaking freak. So I'll say week 1, he's going to have 7 targets, 5 catches, 69 yards, and 1 touchdown.
Okay, that's fair. Hey, I have him at 13 fantasy points. You got him a little bit higher with those projections there.
It just comes down to if he scores a touchdown, right? If he scores a touchdown, he's probably going to have higher than 13. If he doesn't, then he probably won't have 13.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be a fun game. We ran a little long with it, but that's fine. The last player I want to talk about is Devante Smith. What are your expectations this week? I don't have a lot of them. Yeah. I'm not playing if I can avoid it, but what are your expectations? Are you high or low? Last one.
Yeah, I'm high on Devante Smith. It's weird. I've sort of boomeranged on him. I was a little bit lower on him in the Dynasty process. I like Bateman more, I like Marshall more. But once we came into redraft season, I think Smith is definitely the best pass catcher in Philly, right? Goddard, Ertz, they're fine. They're going to get a lot of targets. I have them almost getting like 200 targets combined. But in this wide receiver room, it's Jalen Reagor, who, God bless him, I really liked him as a rookie, but he has not given me a reason yet to think that I was correct about him as a rookie. He's really bad. Quez Watkins, I love him as like a deep stash, but who are we kidding if we're expecting Quez Watkins to come in and start dominating targets? Everybody else there, it's like Greg Ward and John Hightower and JJ Arcega-Whiteside, and honestly, some guys that I just talked about might have even been cut. I don't even know. Devante Smith, one of the reasons we didn't like him is he's a little older prospect. We felt like he was more of a finished product. But in redraft, that plays to his strengths, right? I think who Devante Smith is, who he is. He's going to come in. He's a professional wide receiver from day one. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he is the highest scoring wide receiver for the Eagles in week 1. I'm not playing him in my $50, but I will definitely have a Devante Smith lineup in redraft. And I have Devante Smith in a couple of seasonal leagues and in, I think, at least one Dynasty league. Actually, in my highest stakes Dynasty league, the year in, Devante Smith is in my starting lineup. I feel fine about it.
Okay, that's fair. I'm just not confident enough. I think that for the most part, if you've drafted Devante Smith, you drafted him late enough that you should have another player that isn't named Russell Gage on your team that you can play ahead of him.
If you're benching Smith for Gage, get a life, dude.
Yeah, you need to check yourself in somewhere safe for this weekend, for sure. Look, what we do every year, every year, we started last year, but one thing
tradition, like
right?
No other.
One thing we like to do is we like to each one of us pick a player at each position because we like bragging rights. It's kind of our thing. Right. We talk a lot of shit. If you haven't noticed, Jacob loves to talk a lot of shit.
For
on
sure.
Twitter. I'm getting there. I'm working that up. And Big Billy is quietly able to talk a lot of shit himself. But one thing that we like to do is we like to pick a player each week that we all want to implore you on going and playing. So we're going to break that down. We're going to do a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and whoever's players score the most, that is a point for them. We're going to tally up all those points at the end of the year. And the winner gets bragging rights and their own time on the show to absolutely shit on both of the podcast hosts here on the show. That's what we're playing for. So we're going to kick this off. We're going to kick this off with Billy's quarterback pick of this week.
Pick Baker Mayfield for my quarterback. Look, the Browns have this stupid we're trying to run the ball idea, and it's not going to make sense against KC. They are a high-powered offense, and they're going to consistently rely on Baker having to push the ball downfield. Also, Baker's working towards earning this next contract, and they're looking to establish him as a legitimate QB1 and the future quarterback playing in Cleveland. I'm taking Baker Mayfield to go nuclear against Kansas City. and look for him to have some high touchdown numbers.
Billy is picking a nuclear Baker Mayfield in week 1.
Week 1 was my nickname in high school.
I was wondering if you were going to catch that right away.
I'm absolutely dead. I'll go fast because I have an evening of the rest of my 2L orientation. I'm only 4 drinks in, and I need to be like 34 by now. So we're gonna go fast. Oh, Fitzmagic, you know, I'm starting you in super flex leagues. Fitzmagic, there's only 2 games on the slate that feature 2 teams that each finished top half of the league in pass rate and in pace last.
Oh,
and that is the Buffalo Steelers game and the football team Chargers game. So I wrote about this in my DFS column. They'll be coming out shortly on Player Profiler. I'm sneakily into this Chargers football team game. Give me Ryan Fitzpatrick.
interesting pick on the Ryan Fitzpatrick. I don't dislike it. Look, my pick, we talked about the game. There's a reason I went and did it because I'm the host with the most time on his hands. I get to choose. Picking Jalen Hurts as my quarterback start of the week.
Wait,
Look,
is he outside of the top 15? No, he's not.
Projected?
You said according to the Fantasy Pros rankings.
Oh,
Jalen
did I?
Hurts is projected 8th.
Oh, whoopsie. Whoopsie, I used the wrong ones. Okay.
Cheater.
Look, I'm smart. I can pivot. Right? Oh, God. Now I gotta... Hold on.
Here are some options. You got Joe Burrow, Sam Darnold, Jameis Winston, Big Ben, Jimmy Garoppolo, Tua, Carr,
That's the
Zach
one.
Wilson.
Look, I wasn't sure. We're going to get this on track. I'm going to go Jimmy Garoppolo here. He's playing Detroit. The offense is sick. The team is lit. Detroit sucks. Lance is not totally healthy, so I don't see him vulturing as much as he did before. So you can lock in Jimmy Garoppolo in your Superflex lineups.
Imagine
Guess
thinking
what?
Jimmy
You go
Garoppolo will be alive on Sunday. Could not be me.
We don't even know. Well, now that I figured out and corrected how things work around here, we're going to move on to running backs real quick. We're going to start with Billy.
At running back, I'm taking Raheem Mostert. He's in a high-powered offense, and good passing means that the Lions will have to play back. They're going to lead this game significantly, and Mostert will have the opportunity to run out that clock. And if there's one thing Mostert is known for, it's pure efficiency. If he gets those opportunities, he is going to produce. And we saw that last year where he was the RB6 until he was injured in week 2. I'm taking Raheem Mostert to push for upwards of 100 yards and potentially a touchdown or 2. And don't forget about some of that sneaky receiving role that he's able to have in that 49ers backfield. He is the type of player who, as soon as he gets the ball in his hand, there's a potential that he's going to take it to the house. Give me Raheem Mostert in week 1 against Detroit.
Okay, a Raheem Mostert sighting, our second pick in that San Francisco-Detroit game accidentally, but I don't care. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to go off. Don't give a fuck. Jacob, who do you have outside of the top 15? Now that I know the rules, the rules to my own gimmick, who do you have outside the top 15?
You used to know how to love me right.
Oh my God.
You used to know how to love me right. We're going with Ty Dolla $ign Johnson. He's going for the New York Jets. He's playing against the Carolina Panthers, the worst run defense in the league last year. Ty Johnson is the lead back in the Empire State. He is coming out there. He's going to lay one down. He's going to get 12 carries this week. He's going to get 4 targets this week, and he's going to break one big. He's going to have over 80 yards rushing, over 20 yards receiving, over 100 total, and a touchdown. Lock it in. Ty Dolla $ign Johnson.
I was wondering who you meant by Ty Dolla $ign, and it actually makes a lot of sense now. That one might have to stick.
Dude, you just see my tweet where I photoshopped Ty Johnson's head onto Ty Dolla $ign's body?
Very
with
busy.
With the ego death, Ty with the Dolla $ign thing behind it. It's like the best tweet I've ever made.
I've been so busy, I forgot to look up the rules to my own gimmick. All right. So I'm sorry I missed that tweet. I know the algorithm likes to tell me when you've tweeted. It sends me notifications because you're a rock star now. Look, outside of my top 15, I'm going to go with Damian Harris against Miami. Why? Because if someone's going to get the touchdowns, I don't really care about Ramondre Stevenson. I think it's Damian Harris's team. He looks good. He looks athletic. The team is going to run the ball to help protect Mac Jones. And we don't know how good Miami's actually going to be on defense. We know they're solid in the back end. We don't know what the front end's in the front seven is going to look like. I'm taking Harris. Obviously, he needs to score a couple of touchdowns, but I'm taking Damian Harris as my week 1 lock it up player this week. We're going to move right along to, and that's the end. I'm going to remind everyone what we did here. We're going to go wide receivers. Jacob, who's your wide receiver start this week?
Yeah, I'm going to go with T. Higgins. T. Higgins is the guy that I talk about, of course, all of the time.
Cop out.
A cop out. I just hyped up Ty Johnson.
That's fair, but I mean, okay, come on. He's not all right. Whatever.
Fine. You want someone deeper? You want someone deeper? All right. Fine. I'll pick a different second year.
It's fine. It's fine.
No. I refuse. I will not be called a cop out on this show. Especially, first of all, I support the ACAP movement. And second, so I definitely won't be a cop out. And then second of all, I just literally picked like a running back outside the top 50. So whatever. But here's what we're gonna do. I'll give you another second-year wide receiver. I wrote about him in my DFS column. Chase Claypool, go Canada, right? The Maple Leaf. Oh, Canada. Yeah. We stand on guard. Like, Canada's team is the Buffalo Bills, right? That's the closest we have to Canada, close to Toronto. Toronto probably won't even ever get seats filled in their CFL stadium because all they care about is the Bills, right? Chase Claypool is sick of hearing about the Bills. He's going to go up there. Tre'Davious White, historically, has sucked against bigger wide receivers. I'm not worried about him. He's much better against the smaller guys. Claypool, I expect to see a lot of snaps, even in wide receiver sets. He's going to have big play upside on one of the highest scoring games on the slate. Give me Chase Claypool.
Yeah, can't argue with that. Claypool's going to be real sick. I mean, they're going to need safety help over there. Otherwise, he's going to chew up.
We need a lot of help.
The corner out there. Yeah, Micah Hyde, you got a long day ahead. We're going to go to Billy.
And at wide receiver, I am taking the Heisman winner himself. Devante Smith is my pick at the wide receiver position. They're playing Atlanta. It's a beautiful opportunity. Jalen Hurts is going out there to try and establish himself as a pro passer and someone who deserves to be a starting QB in this league. Devante Smith looked phenomenal in the preseason and was always open, and I don't think that's going to change against that Atlanta secondary, who I can only name one cornerback on their roster, and that's A.J. Terrell. So, going back, I think this is going to be an offensive shootout against Atlanta, which means they will need to rely on the pass and have a lot of touchdown opportunities. I look at the Eagles potentially pushing for 30 to 40 points in this game. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, and I think Devante Smith is going to be a part of that scoring. So give me the Heisman for my wide receiver pick in week 1.
Devante Smith is a big pick there. I don't hate it at all. And look, I know I called you a cop-out for picking T. Higgins, so I'm not going to pick a player who's ranked ahead of him like I was going to with DJ Moore. I'm going to pivot now that I realize that I've made a horrible mistake. And I'm going to go with, an old favorite on this show, someone that I've been trashing for a couple of years now, but I think if healthy will be locked in. I'm going with Odell Beckham Jr. week 1.
Oh, wow. Get off my corner.
Kansas City is going to put up points, and Odell Beckham is the unquestioned number 1 receiver. He looks healthy. I know it shows as questionable. Odell Beckham is going to play, but Odell Beckham is going to play well because he's going to be what? Hyper targeted. His target share was just fine last year when healthy. It just kind of ended the season on a Baker deep throw that was absolutely god awful. My pick this week is Odell Beckham Jr., much to Jacob Sanderson's disgust. We're going to go to tight ends.
I mean, look, for over a year, you've been trashing on this guy, and all of a sudden you're going to co-opt this movement. Unbelievable.
Hey, I called Baker Mayfield for NFL MVP this year, and it starts week 1 against
Browns
Kansas
do
City.
For you?
And we're going to go to tight end here, and this one is the most Billy predictable frickin' tight end pick in the history of tight end picks.
And now at tight end.
Billy.
this is a partially for the brand pick, but he played very well in the preseason, and the team that he's playing has a history of locking down wide receivers not named Tyreek Hill. I'm taking Eric Ebron as my tight end pick. Buffalo has been very rough against the tight end the last 2 years, and they didn't make any significant changes in their roster to change that for this year. Eric Ebron still has that job. Pat Freiermuth is impressive, but until Ebron starts dropping the ball again, I think he's going to stay on the bench or come in for 12 personnel. But for right now, it's Eric Ebron's job to lose, and I don't think he's going to lose it in week 1. I think Pat Freiermuth is dominating some target share by the end of the season, but I'm not taking that right now. Give me Eric Ebron as a sneaky value against Buffalo, against that high-powered offense, and what also should be a shootout. I'm taking Eric Ebron as my tight end for week 1.
Talk about on brand. I mean, he makes a good argument, but it's so on brand. He loves Eric Ebron. He won't let the dream die. I'm gonna go next here. Look, I touted this tight end after one of Zach Wilson's his last appearance on a football field this season. Tyler Kroft is gonna be my tight end picked. Look, I went and picked him up everywhere. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. He's the 36th ranked tight end according to Fantasy Pros for this week. Red zone targets are going to speak volumes. Zach Wilson targeted tight ends at BYU. He loved them in the preseason. They shipped out that god-awful player that was Herndon, and they cut Yabaro, the
Yaboa.
preseason.
Yaboa.
Exactly, the draft darling, the offseason darling in New York. Tyler Kroft is the unquestioned guy there in New York. Same system that had George Kittle running the ball, receiving the ball, all
and the
over
same
the
quality of player, really. Tyler
They're
Kroft.
going to hyper target Tyler Kroft, especially with Crowder out, Elijah Moore being a rookie, and Denzel Mims being god awful. Tyler Kroft is in for some targets and some red
rude.
zone looks when they get there. That's my tight end pick. We're locking in Tyler Kroft. Jacob.
Like we've been talking about the way things change. Rivers and Rhodes. That was 2 of the big additions for the Indianapolis Colts last year. There's no more Rivers, and now there's no more Rhodes. Xavier Rhodes is about to miss this week's contest against the Seattle Seahawks. What does that mean? That means they're going to have to bracket coverage over to DK Metcalf. If they're going to leave Rock Yassin out there in single coverage against DK Metcalf, he'll have 250 yards at a minimum. So when they're going over to bracket him, right, that's going to leave you exposed in the middle of the field. It's going to leave you exposed in the middle of the field to my main man, Uncle Gerald Everett. Gerald Everett is in this game with about a 50 over-under. I think he's going to receive a lot of favorable opportunities to work up the seam against the defense that's trying to cover for the loss of its best cornerback against Metcalf and Lockett. Give me Gerald Everett for 5 to 6 targets, probably a couple red zone looks, maybe even a couple of touchdowns.
Yeah, you've been touting Gerald Everett all offseason more than I have, so it's very fitting that, again, putting your money where your mouth is. Just a quick recap. We've got Baker, Mostert, Smith, Devonta Smith, and Eric Ebron for Billy. We've got Fitzmagic, Ty Dollasign, Johnson, Corey Davis, and Gerald Everett here for Jacob. And look, for me, you got Jimmy G, Damian Harris, Odell Beckham Jr., and Tyler Kroft. These are the picks. These are the matchups. We're going a mono all season long. And at the end, the winner will get to shit on the other co-host because that's what we do. Look, it was a little bit discombobulated to start us off. We had a technical problem right out of the gate. We've all been crazy busy as hell. But look, we got through it. We got it done. That's week 1. Look for Jacob Sanderson's DFS show tomorrow. Jacob, what do you have in store for the people tomorrow?
It was going to be fun. We are debuting No Free Squares. That's going to be my DFS tournament show. Run a weekly DFS column up on Player Profiler called the Pareto Principles. That should come out either later today or maybe tomorrow morning. And this DFS show, we're going to talk about some similar concepts. We're going to talk about some similar market concepts. But we're also going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have the sneaky athlete of the week. We're going to zero in on the game of the week. We're going to talk about some economic theory and how that applies to DFS. And at the end, what we're going to do, I always have my lineups over players. I would say you play whoever you want, make sure it's correlated. We're going to put that to the test. And what we're going to do is I'm going to make a roulette wheel of players, and we will literally just play roulette twice. And whatever numbers it lands on, those players go right into my lineup in a Draftkings tournament. And in 60 seconds or less, I have to fill out a lineup around whatever those players are that's correlated, that includes leverage, and is actually viable. And I will play that lineup with real money every single week. So that's what we got in store tomorrow. Check it out. It's going to be at 6 Eastern Time, 5 Central, 3 Pacific. No free squares on the Full Tilt Dynasty Network, the debut show.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm excited to listen. I'm going to play the same lineup because that's how we roll here. We roll in solidarity with one another. Again, I'm your host of the most time in his hands, Thomas Tipple FF. And look, you need to go and check out What's the Spread. You need to be going and checking out No Free Squares. You need to be going and checking out the Fantasy Walkabout. Full Tilt Dynasty Podcast is bringing a ton of content week in and week out. We're going to clean it up. Week 1, we had some bumps, but guess what? If you agree with what we said in the show, you got to let us know. If you disagree with what we said in the show, you definitely got us know. If you have any problems, you can definitely go to fulltiltdynasty.com, send us an email. Patrick, the HR Alpaca, will definitely get back to you, probably get back to you, might not care. But what is important is that you all remember to be kind to one another, be good to one another, be thankful that we made it to football. Right? So maybe the outside distractions can kind of start to slow down a little bit. We're looking forward. We're looking ahead to football on Sunday. And hopefully you're catching some of that college ball on Saturday because, by God, that was rocking last week. Again, go check out What's the Spread. Check out all the great programs of Full Tilt Dynasty Podcast Network. Head over to Dynasty Vipers. Check out everything they got over there. With that being said, always remember the best days are spent tilting, and that clear eyes and full hearts can never lose. Good night.
So Elliott lines up as the fullback, Pollard as the tailback.